And Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dear everyone, after what you have been talking as a Buddhist, everyone hope we we practice the right way. But in reality, um, being able to understand and practice the right way is very difficult. You just said be very careful, or else we it can backfire. But but in order to realize each situation, it's not that easy. Each of us, uh, it's very difficult for each of us to know if we practice the right way or not, or if we make any mistake. How do we recognize what is the right Dharma and not not unintentionally slander Buddhism? How I said the skillful means of the Buddha is from low to high, from swallow to deep. Even there are the skillful means of alive versus not alive. Like our patriot and our wise teachers are just like the alive skillful means. They help us resolve our issue, or the skillful means of using the sutra. Everything is um, abundant for us to use, and that's why our preacher always said to use the ultimate meaning sutra as a way to certify. We can use the recorded talk. Speaking of the patriot, the sutra of the Buddha, as well as using the wise teacher, we have we have access to the wise teacher, but we don't have belief in them. Can we certify? We still have the recorded teaching and the sutra. If we just randomly believe, we might generate our own idea that might not go align with the Buddha and the patriot or the wise teachers. If we if we find that we still have concerns, we have to continue to practice and continue to ask and learn. Just like the good person looking for the wise teacher, they have to look for 53 wise teachers. It's not that easy, but there is a person that just need one wise teacher. Why? Because their mind already is clear. They already sow the prajna seed. So doesn't matter how many wise teacher, it's still within the the dharma of the Buddha and the patriot. Those are the people that no longer have the suspicion for the Dharma, the person, or themselves. So even though we understand, but sometimes our karmic habit can still influence us and further our mind without the wise teacher to remind us that that ignorance and attachment can lead us to hell. Just like a person for many years, they might not have any other thoughts, but once they generate a bad thought, it can lead them into the three lower realms. So we have to be very careful. That's why our patriarch said, even for the one who has uninterrupted practice without generate any other thoughts, even for the person to the point where um, deluded thought and discriminate turns strange to them, even for those people, they still have to be very careful, like they are careful with the apple of their eye or walking on a sharp blade of the sword. That's why even when we reach that level, we still have to be so careful. Therefore, our practice in reality is not easy. When we are still at the mind of attachment, there's not that much difference. But when we get to the mind of stability, it can be very dangerous. Like a master Úc Đầu Lâm Phất, even though he reached such a high level of meditation, it's not easy for him to get disturbed. But even so, even at that point where his mind is very stable, once he's generates such an angry thought, because there is no other thought, right? When that anger thought raised, like he got angry with the animal around him that disturbed his meditation, and he wanted to become an animal to eat the animal that disturbed his meditation. Even just that one thought, um, after he end his current life, right now he is at the highest level of uh, heaven, where he there's no body, only have um, the consciousness, which which is in samadhi. But once he end his life, this life he will be reincarnated as the human. Sorry, as the animal. Same for us. Right now we have many thoughts. We are like a paper covered up in ink. Therefore, we don't see any. We are so used to seeing the paper cover in the ink. But once the paper is clear and white, even uh, a little ink will become very noticeable. So once we already know the practice, we have to be careful. If we are not careful, we can um, be influenced by our ignorance and attachment completely, and lead us continue into birth and death. That is, um, that is not something we want for you. I understand. Thank you, thầy. More Buddha, dear thầy. Recently I asked the question very clearly, but I reached this, after a while, I feel like I fall into a quiet stage, uh, and which made me no longer continue to ask. Can you explain? Hi. Our mind and body are connected. The mind, uh, this body came from the mind. Um, Whatever happened to this body came in from the karma the that the mind generate. That's why the Buddha said um the mind is the source of the evil, and the body is the manifestation of that evil. So our practice is to go against um, all the regular thing, and that's why it's not easy. We have to be diligent, always always ask the question, meaning we are going against the normal, the regular flow. Why do we have attachment? It's because we have the object of gaining, seeking, and fearing. That is our sickness for um a long time. Therefore, keep that in mind, having nothing to gain, nothing to seek, nothing to fear, and return back to the practice. Don't don't try to seek the doubt. Um, don't try to seek the practice, etc. Everything else is just separate thoughts, delusion. Just return to the practice. Ask the question clearly. Like Master Trung Phong Minh Bổn said, if you feel you making progress, or if you feel you falling behind, those are still the thoughts of a thief. Therefore, every whatever happened, you even if you know or not know, come back to the practice, come back to us before heaven and earth. Um, what was I? Repeatedly, we just need the doubt, nothing else. Even if we have or don't have the doubt now, even if our doubt is not strong enough to sweep away the discrimination, then just leave the um, delusion or discrimination, awake or not awake, decide, continue to ask the question, then gradually the practice will become more familiar and affliction and delusion will become more strange, and you will feel the flavor of the practice. Nam mô Sakyamuni Buddha, dear thầy, dear Sangha, and Dharma friends. After what Ying just asked, I have such a thought arise that I wanted to ask. I remember there was one time I asked you to talk about uh, uh, Patriot Zen means investigating the mind. I feel like it has the same meaning as the doubt is the doubt of birth and death. Um, because when we raise the mind to practice, it's because we see the suffering, but we don't know the reason why. That's why we raise the mind to practice. Could you please talk more about um, what I just mentioned? Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. These are skillful means because we have a fake sickness chronically, and that's why the Buddha came up with the fake medicine. Once the sickness ends, the fake medicine is no longer needed. That's why we call it skillful means. Birth and death in reality are not real, but because our tendency to see everything as real from a long time. That's why we see birth and death, we see suffering, and we find a way to liberate from that suffering. Uh, the true nature originally is pure and it has no birth and death. But because we forget our true nature, if we talk about the reason, It's like Fulona asked the Buddha why the true nature originally is pure, has no birth and death, no affliction, why it turned into sentient being with all the affliction and suffering. The Buddha said, if it's already delusion, how can we figure out why? If there is a reason why, then it wouldn't be considered deluded. Delusion is sickness. Uh, but don't think that once the sickness ends, we will become sick again. Some people still uh, have their dualistic thought, and they think, oh, later on, once even if we um, get enlightened, we might come back to become suffering again. But the Buddha said the goal, one, we refine refine it from the ore, the goal cannot go back to become the ore. The Buddha already confirmed in the scripture. If we are similar to the sixth patriarch and realize that there is no birth and death, uh, then we no longer suffer. But we have to practice to realize that we should not keep following the duality and concern about duality, because doing that we just prolong uh, our sickness. Is to direct us toward the good and liberation. Uh, it is a skillful means and a way to help us. Um, like if we can keep one precept, we can be liberated from the other five. But that is just the liberation based on the five precepts. If we reach liberation based on the five precepts, um, the five precepts are used to help calm our mind, keep our mind stable, and not being disturbed by other things. Uh, but if we appear to keep the five precepts, but in the mind, our mind is still disturbed and still think about all kind of things, that is not truly keeping the five precepts. Um, and that's why we have the bodhisattva precepts, mean the precept based on the mind, versus the voice hearer precepts is based on the body precepts. The mind generate a body and have a strong connection with the body. So what is having faith in one's mind? It originated from the mind precepts. If we keep the having nothing to seek, nothing to gain, nothing to fear, then we are keeping the mind precepts. Um, if you think about breaking the precept, only when you have the mind, then you can break the precept. If you don't have a mind, then how come you break a precept? For example, if we have the mind of stealing, um, then we are breaking the precept. But if we have the mind of um, don't want to steal anything, even if we take away something with the intention to return it to the person who lose it, then in reality we are keeping the precepts. So on the surface, that person seemed to take away someone else's stuff, but actually in their mind, they just do it to return to the owner. But whatever they do, it still generate the karma. So all of those are the skillful means, but the most important thing is using the precepts to keep the mind, not using the mind to keep the precept. For example, when people said the aspirin is used to treat headache, but it doesn't mean that when you have headache, you have to use aspirin. There are all kinds of different medicine that you can use, like paracetamol or traditional medicine. But aspirin is used to treat the headache. Same thing, the precepts is to help keep our mind pure. It is the foundation to push us to reach and become a saint. But in order to be a saint, you don't need to have to use that route and keep the five precepts. But that doesn't mean that you deny the five precepts. Just like we don't deny aspirin is to use headache, but in order to treat your headache, you don't have to use aspirin. So, but these are still just argument. What we need to focus is to practice, not to argue. Uh, I want to check if you agree. If I talk too fast,
Yes, thầy, thank you.
đi thầy đi singer.
Yes, thầy, thank you.
I remember before, when I read in one of the book, um, our master said about uh, the origin attaching foundation, and there's another book he's negates that attaching foundation. I feel it's a little bit conflicting, but I don't know why. Could you please explain more? In the middle argument book, Master Long Thọ also um transcend the attaching foundation. We're talking about duality with the purpose to end attachment. So we talk about the Dharma, but cannot move away from the true nature. How do we say so that people don't get attached to what we are saying? Like the sixth patriarch said, when we talk about the Dharma, we should not move away from the true nature. And he taught us 36 way to argue to for argument. Um, so we are the one who generate our own idea, and we are also the one who conflict with our own idea. So what we can do is continue to learn the sutra, continue to learn the wise teach from the wise teacher. The Buddha said, um, all of the saying doesn't have any real meaning. We should try to get the meaning out of the teaching, not attached to the teaching. But we still attached to the teaching without knowing. What can we do? Continue to practice, open up our mind to learn, then we will be able to figure it out. Like the topic today, who am I? If we are not careful, we may fall into um an outside religion. Uh, thầy said that that religion, that school of religion practice the question, who am I? We see it a lot, especially in India. They have their own rules, very special that a lot of people really like. Ahimsa means no killing. I rather kill myself instead of kill others. So Gandhi was able to achieve no non-violence and still get back his nation. Uh, he used the non-violence method, and then the enemy feel fearful and then have to retreat. That's why he said, um, enemy from the outside, he can deal with that, but the disturbance from inside the country, he cannot handle it. That's why he was killed by uh, the person um, from his own school. But then that religion is very strong. For example, cannot use the tree to hit in the air, cannot use the feet to stir up the water. Everything is the body. Everything is ourself. This body is just a small part of the nature. Yeah. Like all the things around us are also part of ourselves. Um, the vegetarian is very special. No eating any animal. It's vegan. Even if the dead body of the animal, they will not touch it. The time is up. Goodbye, everyone. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.
Rồi bây giờ cũng đã hết giờ. Kính chào quý thầy, sư cô, ba đồng tham. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật.